What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at super micro computer stock, ticker symbol SMCI, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, February 29th. Well, guys, SMCI stock here today down $34.57 a share, 4.06%. If you are new here, you'll hear me say this a lot if you continue to watch the videos, which I hope you do. I hope you get value out of these. I'm covering a variety of tickers every single day. SMCI has been one of them. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. My goal is to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of this week, and I think we can pull it off, but certainly not without your help. So those of you who have already done so, I appreciate it. But if you stick around here, what you'll hear me say a lot is that after hours movement, you have to take it with a grain of salt. SMCI here today is down about 11.5 points after hours. But I don't care if it's 25 points in your favor, 30 points against you. Take a look at this. There's not a business-specific news story, catalyst, and or volume is extremely low, right? If either of those things are going to be true, you can't take it without a grain of salt, right? These stocks, or stocks in general, they get bullied very easily after hours because the volume is so low. The spreads widen out, they get really easy to move with actually not all that massive of size, believe it or not. The only exception to this is when typically there's like an earnings or a really big business-specific catalyst that pumps volume in the after hours to usually above what was present in regular trading hours. Then it's more of a legitimate, definitive move. However, in this case, as is the case with most days on most stocks, the true test is going to be the morning after the open. So let's move on here and get started with our kind of daily ritual here, starting with the volume profile on the 5-minute. Now, typically what I'm looking for is what was the most obvious move or moves in the stock, and then is there changes in volume that correlate with that? Now, today, really the only obvious moves are going to be this move upside and then this fade, right? I mean, we had numerous red candles in a row, but the truth is, if you look at volume, it was kind of spotty. You know, three volume bars out of however many are there on that up move. To me, I mean, yes, we could look at that and say, okay, that's interesting, but not incredibly definitive, so we might as well move on to the 30-minute chart, which is where we start looking really closely at levels that I'm paying attention to come tomorrow. These are the psychological levels, the self-fulfilling prophecy levels that I think most people have on each of these charts. So the 30-minute, the 4-hour, and the daily, incredibly popular time frames, okay, with the most popular indicators on there, which is undoubtedly the 50-period moving average and the 200-period moving average. The white is the 50, the gray is the 200. And, you know, truthfully, the only reason I care is because they're heavily watched, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's exactly what it is, and I wouldn't want it any other way, to be truthful with you. So, looking here at the 30-minute chart, you can see that we kind of lost the 200 period and kind of flipped it into a resistance along with that 50 period, which is now trending lower. Okay, bulls, understand that a lot of bears are going to look at that and say, that looks great for me. Here's what I'm watching tomorrow from a bullish perspective. The 50 period on the 30-minute is easy to quickly turn around. Okay, so that's the good news because it's faded this fast in essentially one day. It can turn around in a similar time frame. I ideally want to see a reclaim of both of those moving averages specific to the 30-minute chart here. Understand, though, that is slightly over a 5% move to get above not only the 50 but also the 200. But we've seen SMCI do crazier things. It's a volatile name as of late. So, you know, I kind of have to set my sights in on doing both of those things as quickly as possible, ideally. That would also put us back up toward 850, which would be a good round number, psychologically speaking. And I think would also put a little bit of a gap between, because you can see here, we're now pressed right up against $800 a share, which we will get to and talk about on the daily chart. But first, this is the 4-hour chart. You can see that the 50 period is going to be the most relevant here. We did give that up yesterday. We currently find ourselves sitting, that's at right about 864.50. So realistically, you know, that's approximately a 7.25% move away. But the truth is, from a bullish perspective, A reclaim of that would be a beautiful sign. And that's really all I can pull out of the 4-hour chart. But truthfully, as a bear, I mean, you wouldn't really want to see a retest because that's going 7.25% against you. But in the case that we do, and the bulls are really taking things higher, offering up on the stock throughout the day, bears, you're going to need to see, at least want to see in the short term, the 50 period on the 4-hour reject. Okay, because a reclaim, especially in a single day, that would be a massive power move if the bulls were able to pull that off here. So let's move on now to the daily chart. This is going to be the most important chart. And like I typically say, this one paints the most obvious picture. Now, over the last few days, SMCI has kind of been like a little bit more timid, kind of slowly melting downside. Now, we have seen what this thing's able to do in a single day. So from a bullish perspective, I'm looking at this and saying we just need a little bit more like oomph to get in the name to really bring back the volatility, and we could clear that up in a day or two. But we are now finding ourselves, again, take after hours with a grain of salt. It is a little bit lower after hours. This is the daily. It's not going to take into consideration the after hours, just the closing price. But we've been talking about 800 a lot lately because that's an incredibly clear, not only psychological, but also technical level is what it's formed into now on a variety of days on both sides of the ball. And to me, 800 is rather important. If I'm a bull, I'm not all that excited about giving up $800 a share because if I'm a bear, and listen, bulls, bears, both you guys, always think through the other side of the trade, arguably more than your own bias, to try to really understand your trade even better by understanding the enemy, so to speak. Because if I'm a bear right now looking at SMCI, going into tomorrow, I'm thinking, man, if we can crack 8, that'll probably discourage some bulls, right? That would be good for my position and encourage some bears to also go short. That's all great for me. So if I'm a bull, I'm looking at 8 and saying, listen, any test of 8, a high volume, as much volume as possible. You can see your volume has kind of faded in the last few days. Pull away, bounce away from 8. Just put some space between the stock price and $800 a share, and I'm thrilled. Okay, now listen, a downside break of 8, I'm not going to, to me, that's not like Armageddon, because you still have 7 as a clear psychological and technical level, probably about equivalent to the strength of 8, just looking at it from the factors we have available here. But obviously, I would prefer, from a bullish perspective, to not have it come to that, because that would just be taking on more and more heat. A bounce here away from 8 would be beautiful, and just get up and start making our way up toward 9, because eventually, the real prize, I think, at least in the shorter to midterm, what a lot of bulls have their eye on is $1,000 a share. So I'm almost excited, that we're kind of up against 800, because I want to see what happens around 8. I feel like the last couple of days have been kind of like delaying the inevitable within a channel, kind of in a little bit of no man's land, just looking kind of wide out to like 9 and 8. And now that we're right up against 8, I want to see if this acts as a trampoline or snaps. And I think tomorrow is going to be a really important day to see where we close and where the volume really comes in. So make sure you subscribe. I'm going to, of course, be covering this tomorrow to kind of go over what we get. Now, last thing here, let's try to pull some bias. We can see what were the options traders thinking, positioning themselves today as we head into tomorrow. So 151,000 total contracts traded. That's an okay sample size. And truthfully, if you look here, it's about 81,000 calls, about 70,000 puts. It is call heavy, but not overwhelmingly so. And if you look at the delta, we can break this down kind of by time frame, right? Because each delta is going to have a little bit different of an average time frame. The higher you go on delta, usually the longer the average expiration is going to get. So the 0 to 20, those are those far out of the money, cheapy, like quite literally gambly style calls and puts, and with the shorter term average expiration. 45,000 calls in that range and about 40,000 puts. So still relatively undecided, but a little bit call heavy. But I mean, listen, as always, this is just one factor of many. So make sure you understand what they're telling us, but don't just look for the factor that supports your bias. If you got value out of this video, please, again, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to be covering this one. We're going to talk about what happens. And by the way, guys, just recently, I added a new benefit to all of the membership options. Gold, Gold Plus UOA, and Platinum. I'm now alerting in real time in-play stocks as I see them and as they fit my criteria for being a truly in-play momentum stock. That's elevated relative volume, typically a fresh news catalyst, a market cap that makes sense for that style of trading, which typically hinges on momentum, right? Liquidity being enough, meaning volume is there. These are criteria that I think most momentum traders kind of come to the realization, and they all kind of end up looking for the same thing because that's where the most edge is when you're trading momentum. So what happens is these stocks hit scanners for momentum traders all around the world, basically at the same time. And what happens is all the traders kind of flood over to that, like, you could almost say like carnival game, okay? And then after, anywhere from 5 minutes to 3 hours, people start to kind of leave, the stock slows down, the spreads widen out, and then people run over to the next carnival game. It's really an interesting thing to watch. And for that period of time, these stocks are what traders refer to, momentum traders, as in play. The problem historically has been that scanners are very expensive, at least good scanners. So I pay a lot of money every month for scanners. And I realized, well, you know what, like I'm watching these every day anyway. So if I could just alert the stocks that are in play as part of a membership, it could be tremendously more inexpensive. And you also get, of course, all the other primary benefits with each membership regardless. That's just an add-on. If you're interested, take a look at that link in the pinned comment. Hope to see you join, and I'll see you tomorrow.